Oh, hi, good.
So tell me about the first time that you found out about my self-harm or self-injuring.
Well, I didn't find out because you were dropping clues or anything like that. The way that I found out was because your boyfriend's mom phoned me and told me that you had confided in him through text messaging, I think, that you were cutting yourself. And so she called me, and it was a difficult call to take, I'll say that. Um, but I'm eternally grateful that that woman had the courage. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. So I'm very, very grateful that she had the courage to reach out and let me know that you were not doing well.
How did you handle it? What was your initial reaction?
Well, I think after I hung up the phone, I ran upstairs and barged into your room and said, "Let me see your arms." Something compassionate like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, something really soft and gentle. And then I'm going to guess that I probably gave you a bit of a scolding for doing that because I was embarrassed. Honestly, at the time, I was embarrassed and told you to smarten up. Probably told you to stop doing that. Why do you do that? Don't do that anymore. Stop it. We're done. Right, and that would be the end of it. I thought. It wasn't. It continued, and I'm trying to remember whether she called me again. I think she did actually. I think she probably called me another time. And so this, it started to come to my attention that this was not just a, one-time thing. It wasn't going to go away quickly or easily. And my initial response, though, still was to try and tell you not to do it. And then when it was like everything, right? So if I told you to, I don't know, it didn't matter what I told you to do. If you didn't do it, then I would just get more controlling, like try and make you, right? There's going to be consequences, And so my disapproval, I thought, would be enough. It wasn't. And me yelling at you didn't do it. Me random checking you didn't seem to stop it. Your fear of getting caught didn't seem to stop it. Like it just kept going. So that's how I initially handled it, was to just try and make you stop it. Stop doing that.
Yeah. What kind of help did you need as my mother and my caregiver?
I needed a lot of education, I think. Like I didn't understand what self-harm was. I honestly initially felt like you were just being really manipulative. Like I thought you were just, I want to say attention seeking, but it was more than that. Like it felt more personal than you just looking for attention. And I think that's just because of how unwell I was at the time. It felt like you were trying to wear me out or something. I don't know what, it sounds ridiculous, but that's honestly how it felt. So I needed some education. I needed to understand what was going on. I needed to understand this had nothing to do with me. This had a lot to do with you. It was all about you and your feelings, and you were overwhelmed, and you had a lot of feelings that you didn't know how to process or handle. And this was, self-harm was a way to you trying to take control, right? You felt like things were out of control and you were trying to have some control. And I needed to develop some empathy, for that, and learn how to validate you. So I needed some education for sure. The other thing that I really craved, especially as time went on, because our house was pretty chaotic at that time. It wasn't just you that was struggling, it was your brothers as well, and then as a result all of us were sort of in chaos. And I really wanted craved someone to say, "How are you, Maureen? How is this for you?" I wanted someone to say, "This must be hard." Do all the things I was, should have been doing for you, really. To say, I can see that you're really trying. You're working hard at getting the help for your kids that you need, and this must be really difficult. So I was kind of craving some acknowledgement and recognition and validation and some care. I needed care too. I didn't know it at the time, but I did.
What was the best thing that you learned?
I think the best thing that I learned was that there was a whole bunch of things actually. I think, like I said, the validation, the empathy, learning how to do that. Like, what is it? How do you actually do that? You know? And it sounds silly, but I didn't know how. And I think the other thing was learning that I couldn't control it. That was a big deal. I remember the day that I got to the point where I was ready to take everything out of your room and just put a mattress on the floor and put alarms on your door just to try and keep you safe, so that when you went to bed I knew that you didn't have anything sharp and you weren't going to accidentally cut an artery and die in the night. And because I was terrified that that would happen. Your cuts were getting deeper and deeper and more and more frequent, and your arms at one point just looked so raw, like they looked like it made me ill, to look at them. And I think, I got, like I say, I got kind of crazy in my efforts to control things. And so the best thing that I learned was I couldn't control this. If you were overwhelmed, you were gonna do what you needed to do. I couldn't stop it. And so trying to let go of that idea that I should be able to manage this, or I can control it, that I can keep you safe, was a big deal. I needed to learn that. And the other thing I needed to learn was that I'm your mom. I'm not your case manager. I'm not your social worker. I'm not your psychiatrist. I'm your mother, and that is my only job here, is to love you and support you and cheer you on. Like that, motherhood is it's a bit of a limited role, right? Just, I'm just here to support you in becoming you, not manage you, fix you.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing that I had to
learn. What would you say to someone who is currently in the situation you were in?
I would talk to them about what self-harm is, why it happens, what we know, right? What we don't know. I would talk about, I would tell them that I'd say what I wanted someone to say to me. How are you? This must be hard, You obviously care about your child, like that kind of validation. And I would say things like, look after yourself. Learn how to look after yourself and role model looking after yourself, because that's really what we want our kids to do too. Learn how to look after yourself. And so I wasn't very good at that. And so it took me quite a while to learn how to slow down, and take care of myself so that I could show up for you. And so I think, in dealing with mental health issues, and difficult behaviors, it can be a marathon, not a sprint. This isn't a quick thing, and so learning how to look after yourself so that you can show up for the people that you love was a pretty big deal. So I would encourage someone to learn how to look after themselves. And I'm not talking about hair and nails. I'm talking about self-care, like find joy, find peace, find stillness, find a support system, all the things that go into self-care.
The nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty.
Well, thank you for talking to me.
Anytime.